So I was looking over a couple art books that I had the other day for some ideas on what to do for my next project. This here is one of my favorites. It's called Rebus by the artist James Jean. And you've probably seen his work around without even realizing it, whether it's from his work at DC Comics, the album cover for The Black Parade by My Chemical Romance, or more recently the movie poster for Everything Everywhere All at Once. Now, while all those works are great, what really inspired the idea for this video was his work at Prada back in 2008. Long story short, originally he was only hired to design the wallpaper for their clothing store in New York. But luckily for James Jean, the head of Prada herself liked the design so much that she wanted to put it on the clothing itself, which is exactly what we're going to do today. Now, I've always enjoyed fashion, even though what I personally wear is rather simple, and I've always wanted to get into it. But the only thing that's ever really stopped me was, well, but that doesn't mean we can't make something cool out of things we already have. So we'll be using this H&M denim jacket that I bought when I was even poorer than I am now. Jokes aside, the jacket really isn't that bad. It's decent, there's just a few stains here and there. The biggest problem is actually this giant seam on the back running down the entire jacket, right where I want to paint on, that I never noticed until now. Alright, we're gonna have to find a way around it. Wait, I should probably think of a plan before I get started. Yeah, that's probably a good idea. Okay, so I have a plan now. Well, more or less inspiration, but the plan is coming together. One of my favorite fashion designers is Yohji Yamamoto. He's a Japanese designer, and back in 2018, during the spring-summer collection, he had these articles of clothing with portraits of women on them that were based on real-life paintings. Yeah, small detail, he also collaborated with James Jean, but this collection in particular was a collaboration with the artist Suzume Uchida. God, I hope I'm pronouncing it right. That jacket is going to be the main idea for the jacket I'm going to make. Pretty much a portrait on the backside, but in my style. As for the seam, however, I found this Korean illustrator named Ensee. At least that's what she goes by on social media. And there was a particular illustration where this girl was holding a flower that was partially covering her face. Now, that's when everything clicked. I can turn the seam on the back of the jacket into a flower stem. That way it will be better integrated into the painting. Seamless, if you will. Another terrible joke. But at least now, with an idea, we can finally get started. So how we're going to get this drawing onto the jacket is with white charcoal. Because charcoal is easily erasable. If we make any mistakes, you can just use a wet paper towel to erase it. Now that we got the drawing done, the charcoal ready, next thing to do is set up the projector. That way we can transfer this drawing onto the jacket. Honestly, man, I am so relieved to finally be at this stage in the process, because trying to figure out a way around that seam has taken days. But that's over and done with. I'm just glad that we're finally making some progress. This looks like fucking shit. Well guys, it's been a lot of fun hanging out with y'all. Thanks for joining me on this journey from the beginning and end of my art career within a span of 5 minutes. If you need me, you can catch me at your local corner begging for change. I may have overreacted there. Alright, let's try this again. Alright, that looks so much better now. Okay, so a few things to note. I usually work on canvas or wood panel, so my dumb never took into account that fabric obviously moves around when you try to draw on it. So for the second time around, I taped the jacket to a wood panel that I had laid around. So keep that in mind if you're planning to do this on your own. This right here is a Posca marker. It's pretty much just a marker filled with acrylic paint, and I'm going to use this to clean up the line work a little bit before we start painting. Now all that's left to do is just paint, and hopefully there won't be any more setbacks. But first, we got to get the supplies ready. Water, red paint, blue paint, paint containers, brushes, and finally the secret ingredient, GAC 900. Now, what is that, you may ask?
I would love to answer this question for you. GAC 900, which is their fabric medium, you mix this in with the fabric at about a 1-to-1 ratio, and it thins out the paint and allows it to kind of set into the fabric more.
That was Andrewnewyork. If you are interested in painting fabric, I would suggest checking out his TikTok. He has beautiful pieces and is a valuable source of information. If I'm being completely honest, I don't really plan out my colors when I'm painting. I usually just wing it for 2 reasons. One, it's more spontaneous. I like just problem solving with the paint. And 2, well, whatever man, I don't want to talk about it. Let's just start painting. Now, before we can add any of the colors that I can't see, we need to add a thin layer of white paint, because if we don't, it's going to take a ridiculous amount of layers to achieve that opaque look that I want. So off camera, I accidentally knocked into the paint container and it spilled everywhere, and at first I was really upset. But after cleaning it up, I kind of like how it looks. It has this like faded kind of glowing effect, and I think if I can put it around the entire figure, it will look really cool. And I can just pretend it was on purpose and that I'm a creative genius. And if you're watching this video, please don't tell anyone. Since this part of the process is fairly boring, at least in my opinion, we're basically just filling in the colors like a coloring book. So periodically I'm just going to sprinkle in some fashion and artist collabs that I like, just to make this video a little more interesting for you and myself. But mostly for me, because editing this section was pretty boring. For example, I bet you didn't know Yves Saint Laurent, this one, not that one, had a collection inspired by Pete Mondrian back in 1965. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Whatever man, I think it's cool, so it's gonna be in the video. How are we supposed to make clothes and not talk about them, you know? Anyways, back to the art itself. During my time at art school, when they were teaching us how to draw realistically, I always preferred the stage right before you start adding detail to your drawing, the blocky stage, which is usually near the beginning of the drawing rather than the end. For some reason, I always preferred that over the finished product, and over time that just eventually became my style and the way I prefer to paint. Nah, that's enough about me. Let's talk fashion. James Jean. Yeah, that's right, we're bringing him back. Remember that Yohji Yamamoto show that I mentioned at the beginning of the video? Yeah, let's talk about it. In 2021, James Jean and Yohji Yamamoto collaborated together. on a capsule collection. If you don't know what a capsule collection is, pretty much just a smaller collection designed to be more minimal and limited edition. Think of it more like a pop-up shop in comparison to a retail store. My personal favorite from the collection is Liber Novus, which is a painting James Jean made back in 2009 of a girl reading a book in this like weird abstract woods type situation. Now that this coloring book stage is coming to an end, we can get to the more fun parts of the painting, which is experimenting, because at this point I don't have anything planned. And as much as I like getting those crisp, clean lines, or finally getting the shading right in a drawing or a painting, there's just something about just winging it and just trying new things when you're painting something. I'm slowly learning that things don't have to be perfect and you don't have to make a masterpiece, and honestly you probably won't. Sometimes it's better just to try new things out and see what works and not worry so much about the final outcome, even though I want this to look really good. At this point in the painting, I'm still completely winging it. The hazy white background reminded me of snow, so that's what we're gonna go with. But I want this figure to be like completely encased in it, which is pretty appropriate since it's wintertime. Why did I think of this? Look, man, I don't know. You have to ask my therapist. Right now I'm trying to add more white around the figure to make it pop more. I'm trying to have this glowing effect that I was talking about earlier, but I'm trying to be careful with it and use water, try to clean away some pieces, basically adding and subtracting the white. And that way I'll have more gradual gradient effect going on. And I wanted to add some snow on top of her head. And looking back, thematically it makes sense, but narratively, I think I'm just really leaning into the snow theme. I'm not quite sure what type of story this is telling. Maybe it's like as if she's just kind of been standing there for like an hour, just withering away to the forces of nature. Jesus Christ, that's dark. Hey, y'all remember Hypebeast.com? That's how I got into fashion. I remember as a teenager, I used to go in there all the time just looking at clothes and things that I could not afford and still can't. That website was how I first discovered James Jean's work, as well as another artist by the name of Takashi Murakami, who had a collab with Louis Vuitton. I thought that was the coolest thing ever when I was a teenager. The idea of an artist and this fashion house, Louis Vuitton, working together to create designs. And they had this animation that they worked together on, showcasing both the art and the designs that I've watched like 100 times on YouTube when I was a kid. But looking back on it, I don't really care for the designs as an adult. I think they leaned way too heavy on the branding. I think they should have showcased more of Murakami's art, because his art is very colorful and cute. And when put in front of this brown background by Louis Vuitton, it just doesn't mesh well, in my opinion. Wait, that's brown, right? That's brown? Okay, so going back to this withering away snowy theme that I haphazardly decided on, I noticed that the way the leaves are positioned does not reflect that at all. So we need to change it into a way it looks like it's actually fitting the theme. As of right now, these leaves seem too full of life. We need to start charging them rent, raise up the prices, and have them slowly wither away. For the art, yeah. You know, conveniently in incredible timing, while I was editing this video, I saw that Fendi announced an official collaboration to celebrate the upcoming Year of the Dragon with Pokemon and Fragment Designs. I think it's safe to say that this is also very similar to my opinions on why I outgrew the Takashi Murakami collaboration with Louis Vuitton. On paper, it sounds great, but execution is just Pokemon on brown leather bags, on a few of the items at least, but they did have some cool designs that I liked. The Dragonite bag though, it is cute, I do like that. And the Dragonite leather plushie with the Fendi scarf, alright, not a complete bust. Not a huge Pokemon fan personally, but I thought it'd be nice to show y'all some other collabs outside the artsy realm of things. I think a lot of companies are now, especially high fashion companies, are now collaborating with more accessible brands and forms of entertainment. I mean, when I was growing up, anime used to be seen as this nerdy, niche, socially awkward thing that kids who got bullied would be into. But now we got things like Gucci collab with JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Loewe in Studio Ghibli, Coach in Naruto, Bape in One Piece, Maje in Sailor Moon. Art and fashion has always been catered to the high class, so when you see a artistic collab with a fashion house, it's just kind of the norm. But it's interesting to see that a lot of things that didn't used to be cool but now are heavily prevalent in everyday culture, such as anime, manga, video games. These little things that you see in your normal everyday life are becoming so prevalent and ubiquitous that these giant fashion houses are now taking a part of it and want to be a part of it because of both the prevalency and the marketability of these companies that we see every day. Hell yeah, putting those big words in my art degree to use for once. Okay, so we're pretty much done with the back of the jacket. We don't have anything in the front, however, and it just needs some accents here and there to make it a full, complete jacket, because we can't just have nothing in the front. It's not gonna match, it's just not gonna work out. It needs to be a complete work of art. And to do that, I'm just adding the same red that I used on the back of the jacket for the portrait on the chest pockets and the side pockets. Now, if you can see by this point, the snow from the back of the jacket has made its way to the front of the jacket, unintentionally. But I think if we just add more to the front, we can make this a lot more cohesive. And you know what, I didn't even think about this, but it's also going to cover up some of the stains that we talked about at the beginning of the video. So in a way, it just kind of worked out. I should tell my anxiety that every once in a while. And at this point, we're just adding a few adjustments here and there. A couple of drops of snowflakes. Yeah, that's the word apparently. I don't know why I lost it just there. I'm cleaning up any paint that got on the accented parts and just adding a couple more layers of white to make it more opaque. Can you tell I'm tired? I'm recording the voiceover at 7:30 a.m. Yeah. Yeah, that's what you're gonna get on my channel. Nothing but full authenticity and zero quality control. Alright, wait, hold up. Before we finish up, I need some coffee. Now, one final thing. As per the instructions of the GAC 900, we need to put it in the dryer for about 40 minutes. That way the paint can set into the fabric. After the 40 minutes, we are finally done. Oh my f***ing god. It's finally finished. They said I couldn't do it. They said it couldn't be done. Alright, calm down, man. It's just a jacket. But I did learn a lot, and I think I did a pretty okay job considering it's my first time working with fabric. And I think it will be something that I will continue to make videos on. And it won't be always about fashion. I want to tackle a lot of different things. But before any future videos, let's talk about some things that could have been done better that I've learned during my first time doing this. First off, plan ahead, because the acrylic in the GAC 900, it soaks into the fabric so quickly that it becomes really hard to cover up later on down the line, especially if you make any mistakes like I did. To be aware of how many layers of paint you're putting on the jacket, because if you continue to put layers on it, the jacket and the fabric is just gonna get stiffer and stiffer. Anyways, yeah, that was one of those things that I knew in the back of my mind was gonna happen, but I really wanted the idea and the vision and the opaqueness to show through. But yeah, I think that's something to be conscious of. 3, if it's too wet, it will bleed through. If you catch some glimpses throughout the video, you can see that it actually did bleed through the inside of the jacket. Now, I don't think that's gonna be a problem because everything is dry now. It's not gonna affect your clothes that you're wearing underneath the jacket, but it is something to be aware of. And these are just a few things that I learned my first time doing this so that you can be aware of it if you are planning on doing something like this. And if it is your first time working with fabric like me, take your time, enjoy the process, learn from your mistakes, and it's okay to make mistakes. Now personally, I'm not going to be wearing this jacket because it doesn't match how I want to dress personally, or my wardrobe. There's a huge contrast in the type of art I make and how I dress on a day-to-day basis. But I think it was something fun to try out, something new to explore. Actually, hold up. Kind of feeling myself. Alright, anyways, I will be doing it more in the future. If you're watching this, thank you for watching it. Subscribe if you want to see more videos from me in the future. And, you know, the usual, like, comment, subscribe, yada yada. But most importantly, thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. And I hope you have a great day.